Well, would you look at that? No sooner did I say that we're having a very, very dry year, just like 2021 when we had the drought, and it starts raining. Yay, that's exciting. Wow, it sure is raining. This is our first really official rain in July. All we got was sprinkles. It brought us like 4 millimeters of rain. This is wonderful. The garden is parched and it needs this so badly. Before we start the video, let's just check and see what we got. It didn't rain very long, so we'll just take a look. Like 2 millimeters, somewhere in there. Oh well, I guess it's better than nothing. Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Nana the Canner here, and I want to welcome you back to the edge of the Boreal Forest. And if you're new here, I want to welcome you as well, and thank you for watching. We live in northeast Saskatchewan, Canada, along the edge of the Boreal Forest. We live in a Zone 2 garden area, which gives us approximately 3.5 months of frost-free time. Usually from the end of May, beginning of June in there to about mid-September is when we get our first frost warnings coming in. And sometimes we can have a little bit of frost in between. So that's not very long to plant a garden. So we only really get one shot at this. And that's it. If it doesn't grow, it doesn't grow. So what we do is we practice traditional gardening. And that is basically how our forefathers and grandfathers and great-grandparents, how they gardened basically when they first come to the land or to this area. We don't have any fancy trellises. We don't do mulch because mulch can be expensive to buy, and I just don't have time to do mulch. It takes a lot of work to go out and create enough mulch to cover the garden space that we have. So that's one thing we don't do. It's an organic garden. I like to call it traditional because, I mean, back then they never called it organic gardens. They were just gardens. So it's organic, but I also call it traditional. We don't use herbicides, we don't use pesticides, and we don't use chemical fertilizers. I am open to using natural fertilizers, which I'm looking into. There is one that is interesting me, and that is like a yeast fertilizer. I have to look at it again, but Krista from over at Almost Off Grid Grandma has used it in the past, and I was just mind-boggled by it. So I need to do a bit more research, but we don't use any kind of chemical herbicides, pesticides, or chemical fertilizers. We do spend a lot of time weeding. This year, we have had a very hard time dealing with the weeds, and that is for one main reason. Last year, we had what we called the garden disaster, which I will leave a link in the description box down below to that video, where we actually had, I think it was 12.5 inches of rain in 6 weeks, which just decimated the garden. Nothing grew. So last year, Papa decided that we were going to summer fallow. We decided, and he worked it up, and we were going to summer fallow it. And what he did was he brought manure over from the old corral next door, and he spread it on there. And it is a really amazing natural fertilizer. The only problem with that is when you bring manure in, you also bring the weeds, and you also bring the seeds from the weeds that come into your garden. And that is what has happened. We've declared the war on the weeds. And even though I'm unable to pick very much because I have a shoulder injury, my family has really stepped up to the task and really taken to helping me with the garden this year. And I just want each and every one of you to know that I truly appreciate it. And especially you, Papa. You've went above and beyond. You've left your own work to come and help me, and I really truly appreciate that. For example, this weekend, he's the one that picked through all of the peas. He took all of the weeds out of the peas, and I'm sure he was eating some too. We also went through a lot of ice cream as well when the kids were home, because they really did a great job too. But it has made a world of difference, them putting in the garden this year and helping out. Even though it is covered in weeds, we're going to have a harvest. It might not be the optimum harvest we had hoped for, but it will be a harvest. And two, I just want you to know that we are running into a little bit of a drought condition. We did have some rain in the beginning of June, and then we had some really good rain. We had, I think, a really good inch or so in the end of June there. But since the beginning of July up until now, the end of July here, we have only had 4 millimeters of rain, and that is not enough at all. And I will show you the dry conditions in a moment. What's frustrating though is the rain has been, not even this morning, not very far south of us, maybe 15 miles south of us, or it's traveled from west to east north of us. So it's been very frustrating watching the radar and seeing all that precipitation just pass on by. But we're hoping and praying for rain so that the plants that are already doing fairly good despite the weeds can really blossom and bloom and produce the fruits of our labor. So the very first harvest we have had is off the raspberries, and I'll show you the raspberries in a minute. But these raspberry plants, they were planted in a drought condition in 2021, and they did nothing that year, which was truly frustrating. So the next year I maybe had a few dozen raspberries, so they did nothing. And then we fought with the weeds for a few years, and we kind of worked around it, and then it started to spread, which was really good. And then this year has been the most significant spreading that we have seen. And you know, it's frustrating because when I first bought all these raspberry plants, the people at the greenhouse were like, why are you buying all these raspberry plants? Do you realize how much they're going to spread? I'm like, we have a big family. Like, we have 10 kids. So if I can make enough jam for everybody, I would love to make enough raspberry jam for everybody. So when they didn't spread, it was very frustrating. But this year, we're finally seeing the spreading that we need to get things going. And we had our first mini harvest, which I'm going to show you in a minute here. But I'll take you along and I'll show you a few things in the garden that I just wanted to point out. It won't be a complete garden tour, but just a few things I wanted to point out to you and just show you as things are progressing and coming along. So let's head on over. Well, it may not be very much, but it is the first significant thing that we have picked off of these raspberry plants in 4 years. So I'm really excited about it. I'm thinking we probably have a cup and a half, maybe 2 cups here. I probably have eaten a total of about a half a cup. A week or two ago, there were a few that were ripe and ready to go. But this is the very first harvest that we've had that will be something that I can, for example, measure out and freeze for jam, or we might even just eat it fresh with a little bit of cream on top. All right, so this particular plant that I did put in, this raspberry plant, was only about 1.5 feet tall when we initially put them in. And you can see that we've got a lot of new growth happening, a lot of runners coming. This is all this year's runners coming up, which is really exciting. They're really starting to spread now. And some of these you can't even, there's another runner right there. And some of these you can't even see the original plant in there. This one you can right there. But you see, we need some more rain because these are having a hard time forming and filling out. And so a lot of them, they're only filling out partially when they do, and then ripening. So they're kind of like a half of a raspberry. for example, like this one. They're only filling out partially because we're not getting enough rain. So hopefully we can get enough rain in the next little bit that the ones that are still forming, like this one, for example, or these few down here, will be able to fill out properly, and we'll have more raspberries here. So yeah, I'm really excited. I know some of you with raspberry patches are going, oh, that's not very big. Well, it's the best I've done in the past several years, so I'm excited about it. So in here we have an asparagus row right here with asparagus crowns. And then this year I put in some new tiny plants in there, and they're still, some of them are thriving quite well. We just need to get in there and pick it out. But the reason why I'm here is I want to show you that when the garden was worked up this spring and the manure was put on, it was actually put on that area right there as well. So this area here did not have manure put on, and you can see like there's one really invasive weed here that you know, we've had a hard time keeping out of the garden with the weeding and the tilling in the past few years. But we don't have many of what came in with the manure, and this is the bulk of it right here, this weed. Papa calls it ragweed. So you can see the difference between where the manure was not put and where the manure was put. So yeah, just be wary that if you're getting manure from a local farmer, that this will happen. There's nothing you can do about it. If it's coming off a farm, well, obviously it would be if it's manure, but you're going to bring everything, every weed in there and every seed from every weed in there as well into your garden. Okay, so the cucumber plants are coming quite well, but you can see that the drought is starting to take its toll. Some of the leaves are starting to curl up, and in the midday heat they will wither. It looks pretty bad sometimes. We had 34-degree weather the other day, and all of the squash and pumpkins and cucumber leaves look like they were just wilted right down. But they come back as soon as the dew comes and you know, the evening comes during the night. They do perk back up. So my mom, she's seen my last video and she's like, you're gonna have a lot of cucumbers. And I'm like, good. And because I want a lot of cucumbers. And you want to know something? Take a look. We have our first cucumbers. Look at that. I'm so excited. I am glad that I stepped in here. These are quarantines. These make amazing dill pickles. So I'm telling you, in the next couple of days, we will probably be picking our first cucumbers. Which I, like I said, I'm very excited because we actually don't have many jars of homemade cukes left, so, or pickles, I should say. So that's exciting. We're slowly getting these peppers uncovered. Lots of them have buds on them. A few of them are about to bloom. I'm thinking when we finally get another rain that they'll be doing so. They don't look too bad. And of course, with the heat we had the other day, last couple of days, all of my really nice radishes have bolted. So I'm just, the champions are the really good variety that we planted this year. I'm going to pull them because I'm sure we have lots that's ready there. The rest, I think they all just kind of went to seed. I'm going to pull all those out. I don't know if we'll have time to put another round in. We'll see, but we can give it a try. My stepson did a little bit of weeding in the onions, the yellow onions. We're starting to get a lot of tomatoes on the tomato plants. But yeah, you can still see that the tomato plants are under a lot of stress. They need some water. And then what happens is if the tomatoes get too big in a drought condition and then you get a sudden full-on rain, they will split. We had that happen one year. So you can see we've got some really nice tomatoes starting in there. So when it does rain, I hope it doesn't all come at once, but enough to perk everything up and to move things forward. And maybe in the next couple of weeks, we can work on getting these all picked out here too. Still working on getting some of these carrot plants exposed. They look like they're faring a bit better now. The ones that did end up germinating and growing, so that's good. Just a matter of exposing them. And Papa worked really hard and was able to pick out almost all of the peas, get all the weeds out. They are laying down quite a bit because the weeds were actually giving them a natural trellis. So once they were removed, then they kind of laid down. But that's okay. My mom never had trellises. And what we did was we just rolled the plants from one side to the other when we were picking the peas, and we got really good pea harvests. You don't need a trellis to plant peas. Like, you don't. Like, what did they do years ago when there were no trellises, decades ago? They just put them in the ground, and this is the way they grew. That's how it was done. So, and we do have peas ready. You can see they're full of pods. And we have some that are plumped right up and ready to go. So that will be a process this week, but I will try, even if I take 10-15 minutes at a time and pick, I will try to get this picked, and we'll have our first pea harvest. So our kidney beans are doing well. We have actual beans now. A lot of them have already flowered. So you can see the beans are starting right there. And they'll be slathered with beans. So we have the kidney beans, half a row on the other end, another half row here. The two ends on these two rows are navy beans, and then we have a black bean here that's got some really pretty blossoms on them. So those are coming along well. The first half of this row are the green beans. And Papa said that when he was in here picking the weeds out of the peas, sure enough, he said, your green beans are starting. So there we go. We're going to have green beans. And then the last half of this row are yellow beans. So we're going to have a good bean harvest this year. So we have the 6 rows of potatoes. We have the 2 rows of purple Caribe or Caribe. We have the red Norlands. And then we have Kennebec and Yukon Gold. The Kennebec are still standing up quite nicely, and they've got some beautiful flowers on them. For the most part, they've finished flowering, but there's still some on there. I did pick a few hills. We're going to have fresh potatoes for supper tonight. It took quite a bit. There'll be a couple meals out of these hills though. But we're having a bit of a problem. Number one, they're maturing way too early. They grew so fast, there was no opportunity to really get in between them to till and hill them, which is what we like to do. So now that they've grown so tall, and now that they're producing potatoes underneath, which is a good thing, you can see that they are pushing up, and some of the potatoes are exposed. So it poses a problem because they weren't hilled. So I might have to go in here and cover a few up just with my hand. It's a good thing. It means there's lots of potatoes in there, but we just need to be careful that they don't get exposed. We also have a problem with Charlotte. Down in this row here, she's digging holes, and I think she's actually eating the potatoes. So the dog has been a problem in the garden, unfortunately, but we should have a really good potato crop this year. Here are some of the ones that she dug up and left behind. I have to take them in yet. Our little watermelon plants are coming along. They have a couple of blooms on them already. These ones are a little bit smaller, but they're coming along. Our sunflowers, the ones that did grow, are coming along. This big hill is the mashed potato squash. I actually see a tiny one starting right in there. So that is exciting. This is the first year ever for planting these. So I'm really excited to see how well they grow. So you can see the stress from the heat and lack of water with the butternut squash. And despite that, they are still producing a few buds. So that's a good thing. So yeah, it definitely needs some water. The zucchini are doing very well. This one we got to come out and pick. Right there. Probably a little bit bigger than what we should have had it, but that's okay. And then there's a few more in there. And then we have some really tiny yellow zucchini, golden zucchini coming here. We usually don't have trouble planting zucchini. Zucchini goes well. We have some butternut squash, not butternut. It looks like spaghetti squash coming here. Some beautiful blooms there, but again, you can see the stress on the leaves and because of the lack of moisture. Look at there. There's lots starting there. Oh, excellent. Excellent. Take a look in there. That's a beautiful spaghetti squash coming. Little miracles like that make me happy. Some really nice sunflower plants back in here. And this is all of the pumpkins here, like the sugar, small sugar. And then we have the jack-o'-lantern at the end. I haven't been in there yet, as you can see. We have lots of blooms happening. We usually don't have any trouble growing pumpkins here. So we should soon see a few on our travels. So you can really see the effects of the lack of moisture in the bicolored corn. You see how the leaves are still curled up even more than last time. They're starting to get their tassels on them though, which is good. That means they're still growing. You can see some of the lower leaves and the tips are turning brown from lack of moisture. But they are still growing. They're still starting to produce their tassels. And I'm sure we're going to get a rain soon and these things will perk right up. And next time the grandkids are home and if those tassels are all the way out, I let them run through the corn patch to help everything pollinate. Not that we don't have enough wind, because we do. I mean, it's Saskatchewan, right? It's full of wind, but it's always fun to see them running through the corn patch or sneaking through. This is one spot that you haven't seen yet. You didn't see it in the last video, but it's kind of a small strawberry patch. The plants are new this year, and so they're just getting established. They did have some runners on them, so we have some runners that are established as well. I do need to get in here and get this watered though. They do need some water. But you can see that we've got lots of strawberries forming. And we have some sweet peas. And I didn't get the chive blossoms off the chives this year, which I'm going to be regretting because they're very invasive. but I just didn't get to harvesting all of that this year. So we'll just leave it because we're still coming out here and gathering chives for baked potato and other things. But I didn't do an actual chive harvest this year. I had wanted to do it and then make some chive powder, but I'll leave that for next year, I think. All right, so in the last video, I showed you all of the chokecherry trees that line the entire inside of the yard site where the house is. They were just plastered with chokecherries. And because of the heat, and maybe even a lack of moisture, they've actually started turning, which is a little bit early. I think it's probably a week or two ahead of schedule. But they're just covered. These trees are just covered in chokecherries. And I wanted to show you just how they look. And by mid-August, end of August, these will be a dark, blackish, deep purple. And we will be harvesting them for chokecherry juice and chokecherry syrup and chokecherry jelly. And they are native, even though these were planted here, they are native to the area, so they grow really well here. But they're just covered. So Papa's birthday is the beginning of September, and he says that it is always such a fond memory with the chokecherries because he always eats these bitter chokecherries on his birthday, and his teeth get all blackened and purple from them. But that is a fond memory that he's had in childhood is picking and eating the chokecherries that are native to this area. Well, I want to thank you all for joining me. If you're still here, thank you for watching to the very end. Things are going to ramp up. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming out of the garden in the next while, and I really do want to bring you along. Thank you for joining me. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and share. And thank you so much for watching till the very end. I truly appreciate it.